Hi guys, Brexit Spartan Mark Francois, it seems, moonlights as a psychologist as he knows that people who have refused to board the Bibby Stockholm are in some way gaming the system with the help of corrupt or lefty lawyers. Now he blames the mess which is a result of the Tories not processing claims, which meant that people were not being housed in rented accommodation but therefore being put up in hotels and now barges. He blames this on the European Court of Human Rights. I kid you not. Have a listen to this.
Many people across the country, they're struggling to pay their gas bills. Their mortgage may have just gone up. They look at this on the news, on the television, and they can see some lawyers gaming the system. It's perfectly obvious what's going on.
So people who are struggling to pay their bills and struggling to pay their mortgages, their first thought is, oh, look at these lefty lawyers gaming the system. Okay.
If you've gone across the channel illegally in a dinghy, to then say that you're scared of water is just palpably risible.
How do you know this? Now, some people may have been told by lawyers, claim that you're afraid of water and you won't go on the barge. But some people may actually have suffered some sort of trauma by crossing the channel in a dinghy. How do you know which people are being honest and which people are, quote unquote, gaming the system?
Right? So people are legally gaming the system and the whole of the public can see it. So what do? You have to cut to the chase and stop people coming in.
So Mark, do you agree with Suella Braverman's rhetoric there then? Or her idea that these people, these lawyers should, have a life sentence? Do you think that's correct?
I go further. I think we're in this mess, and it is a mess, because we allowed the Strasbourg court to interfere. If you look at the prisoner voting issue a few years ago, where they attempted to interfere, some would argue beyond their remit, when Cameron was Prime Minister, we just said, this is none of your business, we're not doing it. And in the end, the Strasbourg court backed out, and that's what we should have done. On the illegal migration bill, we could have legislated to carve out that channel scenario from the competence of the court. We didn't do that, although privately some people think that's what Suella Braverman wanted to do.
What are you talking about? You can't carve out parts of the law. I know, was it Brandon Lewis who was saying we're going to break international law in a limited and specific way? You can't break these rules. This would be breaching UN conventions. The UK would become a pariah if it did that. But these people don't understand international law. They don't understand what the hell they're talking about. But they continue to spew this on the likes of GB News.
But we're now waiting for a Supreme Court judgment, a UK Supreme Court judgment. We may not get it till Christmas because of judicial recess and other legal technicalities. So we're going to have another summer's worth of this. Tens of thousands more people, right? Rishi Sunak said he would stop the boat. Well, he hasn't stopped them yet.
He hasn't even filled that one. He's only got 16 people in it.
So what we need to do is to focus on the main issue, which is how do we get flights going to Rwanda? How do we persuade people there's no point paying 10,000 euros to a people trafficker, because if you get to the UK, you won't be allowed to stay. We need...
But you said yourself that the flights probably won't start until after Christmas. And now you're saying, okay, what we need to do is focus on getting people on the flights. But if the flights are blocked until Christmas, then why are you talking about focusing on sending people to Rwanda now? You have to forget about Rwanda.
Need to focus on the heart of the problem, and that means telling the ECHR where to get off.
But the core problem here is that you're not processing enough claims. There is a backlog. There isn't enough accommodation to hold people, so that's why they were moved into hotels. Then the hotels filled up, or there was problems putting people in hotels. That's why you started to move people into army bases. Then there was pushback from that. That's why they're putting people onto barges. Part of it is, of course, a distraction from the failures of the Tory government in other ways. But when it comes to the overflow, you have to put people somewhere. Residents in areas where there are hotels are kicking up a stink over that. When it comes to the the military bases, residents aren't too happy about that either. And you have Tory MPs complaining about it in the House of Commons. So this barge seems to be some sort of stopgap measure, but of course it's not going to work. But the problem is the backlog. If you bring down the backlog, then you move people out of this type of accommodation into regular accommodation.
The frustration, Mark, is £170,000 per person to get them to Rwanda. That's what the costing looks like. Surely when we hear this, it sounds like we've given up on stopping them leaving the shores in France.
We can't. The Prime Minister said he would stop the boats. 3 words, absolutely categoric. So we're going to have to stop them. And
because these short slogans mean nothing. These short slogans, like get Brexit done. Remember get Brexit done? Boris Johnson won an 80-seat majority on get Brexit done, the oven-ready deal. It all meant nothing. Now we're seeing the consequences of get Brexit done. Brexit is not done. It will not be done until the UK rejoins the European Union. Then Brexit will be done. But these slogans, stop the boats, whatever, get Brexit done, they mean nothing. They're designed to distract the public. They're designed to be a quick fix to a very serious and complex problem.
Sorry, but what are we paying £500 million to the French for over the next 3 years? Well, if it's not to stop the boats, what are we...
You're not paying them. That's the problem. But that's part of the problem. The French have said, we're waiting for the money and we haven't received the money. You want us to do a job, but you have to pay us. Like, do these people not understand that if you want somebody to do a job and you say, I'm going to pay you, and then you don't pay them, well, then they're not going to do the job. But what is the goal here? You want to pay the French to do what? To keep asylum seekers in France who don't want to be in France. They want to be in the United Kingdom. Like, what is the goal here? Just to stop the boats. Okay. And these people who want to arrive in the United Kingdom, why do you want to keep these people out?
What are we paying for?
Well, I think that's a really good question, although I think Macron is struggling to run his own country, let alone to patrol the French coast.
Then we should have given him £500 million.
Do you know what?
You haven't given him £500 million.
I certainly think we should have got better value for that money. I completely agree with you.
In moments like this, you either laugh or you cry, because I do think this whole thing is making a mockery of our country.
You know who's making a mockery of the country? People like you. People like Mark Francois. The Prime Minister himself. Suella Braverman. Because what they're doing is they're lying to people. They're saying, we can do this simple thing. And they're pretending it's simple, but when it's extremely complex. Like, think about it for a moment. How do you deal with this? Well, the solution, of course, is to process more claims. But the Tories don't want to say that. So they're saying, well, what we're going to do is we're going to work out a deal with France to send people back to France. But when the UK was a member of the European Union, it could have used the Dublin Convention, but it left the European Union, so now it can't benefit from that, to distribute asylum seekers around Europe. Deport people. But you can't deport people until you process their claims. Because you can only deport somebody who has failed their asylum process. So they've put in a claim and they've failed. That's how you deport them. You say, okay, this person. But then also, if you want to deport people, you have to have an agreement with the country where you want to send them to. But the UK doesn't have these agreements. It's just blaming the asylum seekers for arriving, blaming France for not stopping them, blaming the European Court of Human Rights for getting in the way, but never blaming themselves, the Tories and their supporters, never blaming them. Maybe we should take some of the blame for a change. No, it's always somebody else's fault. You know, we've heard the EU blamed, we've heard the asylum seekers blamed, we've heard lawyers blamed, but I think the European Court of Human Rights is a new one, or maybe not. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.